came up a while ago about divorced parents. Do you guys have any divorced parents, or not even so much the issue of divorced parents, but more so parents who are going through a custody battle, I think is really where this is coming from and who you have to communicate with, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a tough one. I've actually had this in my practice as well. And, it came down to, parents were going through a custody battle, and, mom said that she had custody, and then dad would come in and say, he's getting custody, and, who do you do what to, and who do you communicate with, and et cetera, et cetera. Someone else said they just found out today that something's happening with one of their clients as well, which is tough. So, working with kids and, explaining to them, their parents are divorcing, et cetera, is one thing, but I'm actually talking about more so on the admin side of it, and who do you talk to and what do you do in terms of divorced parents. So I reached out to somebody I work with closely who kind of is an ethics guru. We've had her on our podcast before. Her name is Dr. Rosemary Kondalak, and she gave me a few examples of kind of things to do or where to start, et cetera. And she said the very first thing to do is get a copy of the court order. Now, I did get a copy of the court order in this case, and I couldn't read it. I didn't know what it meant. So I had to really look for it. I had to ask for a professional for the exact wording, et cetera. But really what you want to do with that court order is you want to determine who has custody. So custody doesn't always mean where the child lives. So for instance, mom could have custody, but they could be living with dad for 5 out of 7 nights of the week. It just, maybe that's the way the circumstances goes. But really what custody means is who gets to make the decisions about the child. And that's what you need to find out, is who's making those decisions. And sometimes it's joint custody. And if it's joint custody, then you CC every single parent on it with all your communications. But if it's one person, then you just talk to that one person, period. So sometimes they have joint custody, and sometimes one parent has custody and the other parent has what's called access or visitation, and that's it. So the parent who has only access, they're not typically the decision maker. So if dad's the access parent, then mom would have to give consent for ABA therapy. Okay. If dad's the access parent, then mom's the one who basically you go through everything with parent goals, et cetera, et cetera. Mom would be the one to make those decisions, or vice versa if it's the other way around. In the absence of paperwork, basically it's the parent with custody who has the rights and consent for the treatment. So I guess rule number one is just find out who's got the custody. And if it's joint, CC both parents on it. So the parent with custody has the rights and the consent for treatment. The parent with access only has the rights to look at the medical information, but they don't have the rights to make those decisions. Really also keep in mind that you're not their lawyer, you're not their arbitrator. So if they have anything in terms of well, can you vouch for me for this, or can you testify that this, blah, 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 really encourage them to go to a lawyer to determine if there's a shared decision making. Custody decisions are not decided by us. I just tell them right away, we don't want to get in the middle of this, go see a lawyer or an arbitrator. You also want to get consent from both parents to involve them in therapy. So even though the access parent isn't giving consent to therapy, they do need consent to be involved, right? So you can definitely talk to them about that. And the access parent does not give consent. The child can still be involved in therapy, but the access parent just won't be involved in therapy. It would just be the custody parent who is. If the access parent doesn't give consent, then there'd be no communication, all of that stuff with the access parent. Only the custody parent would have that communication and the parent coaching if they're the only ones who've given consent. It's tough. If in doubt, consult the Divorce Act or the Attorney General, whatever is, in your, whether it's, if you're in Canada, it would be a federal act, which is all of Canada. In the States, I think it's from state to state. That's very specific. So look there to see, and there's usually a tip sheet that's put out by that person, so you can find that. And that's that. So really, rule number one, find out who's got custody. Rule number two, get consent from both parents in terms of sharing communication. So that's that. Good luck.